Welcome to Promote, Profit, Publish. I'm your host, Juliet Clark, and we have some really cool stuff coming down the pipeline the end of this month and early next month. And I wanted to tell you guys a little bit about it and talk about why we went this route and what we need to do. So before we go there, I want to invite you over. We have the first 3 modules of our new coursework that's going to be coming up in March, and we're giving it away free so you can get a taste of what it is and how it will help you not only write your book, but be able to really market it effectively as well. And if you have a coaching business or a business that you wrote your book because of a business, this will be helpful for your business as well. You can go to that at findyouриdealavatar.com. And love for you guys to give us feedback on it since we're getting ready to launch. So the topic I'm going to talk about today is the science of marketing and why so many people are failing at it. So I look at the coaching world, I look at book sales, I look at things that people are doing. And it's not just your funnel that makes a difference. It's the layering of your marketing that really can make a difference, and why I encourage people to start early on this adventure, like when you start writing your book so you can get some really great feedback. There really is a science to marketing, and there are 5 phases of promotion, and I don't know that you'd even call it promotion, but it's gathering the people, gathering your tribe, gathering your audience that you're going to sell this book to. The reality is there are over 100,000 books that are published a month now, and nobody's just going to find you. And I hear that over and over for authors who don't do this work in advance. When I tell them this, they start saying, oh, you're so negative. Everybody will love my book. And the reality is they have to find your book before they love your book. And so it's not really something that you can just assume is going to happen. So that's where I really want to talk about today is this layering that needs to take place. The first stage of this layering is what we call the unaware stage. And I actually take that a step further. I call it the nobody knows you're alive stage. And I don't mean that to be negative. It's just that this is the foundational layer of your content. This is where your audience building journey begins. Everything that comes after that is trust, engagement, conversion, and advocacy. So all of that depends on the groundwork that you lay here. Most authors and business people, they jump into the 4th category, which is product aware. And they skip the first 3, which is this unaware, problem aware, solution aware, product aware, and then going for that close. So that's why most of this fails. No one knows who you are. They don't trust you. They don't know they have a problem. They don't know you have a solution. So you can see when you come out with a new program, product, or service, and believe me, a book is a product. That's why it fails. You haven't built the trust in an audience, and you don't have a big audience at this point. So let's have a little understanding about this awareness stage. At this stage, your readers, your clients, they're not thinking about you, your book, or your solution. They might not even realize they have a problem at this point that needs solving. They believe their challenges are simply part of a normal environment. I'm too busy to market effectively. I'm unable to scale influence. I'm unaware that I need this publishing or platform. That's just giving that to you from my potential. That's not even talking about the problem that you solve and them not being aware that you're there. So this is why you have to start here. So the unaware reader is typically an accomplished professional who believes success comes from working harder, not communicating more strategically. And that's the biggest problem here. Y'all work way too hard without doing this foundational piece. So here's why it's essential you start here. Every journey begins with awareness. If you have a problem you can't solve, first you have to be aware of that problem. And so that's why you have to start at this stage. Assume at this stage, you may be a great expert. You may know exactly what you're doing. You may be the best person out there to have products, programs, and services. But if nobody knows who you are, nobody's going to go buy from you. And a lot of that doesn't happen with PR. PR is an extra layer in the process after the book comes out. It's not the introduction to the world point that you jump in at. By building this also, this gives you the broadest possible reach. So you're taking the time and effort by going through these stages, especially this unaware, and really starting to build and layer and get those products sold. In this, you're just providing education. You're not really selling anything at this point. And I know for most people that's super disappointing because of course you're in business to make money, but that's why you start early, especially with a book. And believe me, a book is a business. So what this does for you is it allows you to position yourself as an educator, not a seller. You are a trusted person out there who solves a particular problem. They don't know what problem. The audience doesn't know what problem yet, but you're acting as a server, not a seller. And those are the people who do best in that coaching world, is people who are of service to their audience. It also creates long-term resonance, and it reduces a lot of downstream resistance as well. And that downstream resistance is most often because they don't know you. They don't trust you. It's like going out on a date and somebody asks you to marry them the first date. You're like, I don't even know you yet. Like, I think I'm going to leave now. So that is really, really why you need to start this. This unaware phase is probably the piece that takes the longest as well. If you've ever done Google ads or Meta ads or anything like that, and you've hired somebody, I know there's a lot of frustration because those people, when they're being upfront with you, they'll say the first phase of this is going to take 4 to 6 months. That's because they're getting people used to seeing your name, used to seeing your expertise, used to those educational pieces. And it doesn't happen overnight. The internet is a really, really noisy place if you haven't noticed. So let's talk about that psychology of unawareness. That goes right back to just what I said, the selective attention. Audiences filter out unfamiliar concepts. So if they're not getting the message at this time, they're probably not filtering you into their daily schedules. There's also that comfort bias. If they need to solve a problem or they're becoming aware that there's something out there, a lot of times they'll shy away from it because it's like, do I want to deal with it? Do I not want to deal with it? And what most people don't understand, and I know a lot of my clients don't, is most people have to hit rock bottom before they solve a problem, before they realize this is a problem that I can't have repeat over and over and over again. They're usually in some sort of patterned behavior that they want to grow out of. And then cognitive dissonance. A lot of people don't want to admit their ignorance. It threatens their self-esteem. So you got to get through that mess as well. And then information overload. Everyone knows the internet is so overloaded. So in this phase, you're going to spend a good 4 to 6 months revealing who you are, why you're an expert, why you love doing this, the passion of it. You're educating people, again, not selling. So what you're doing is you're revealing the gaps in where those people are now to where they're supposed to be. So you're showing contrasts, and showing, what other consultants in the industry are doing in a kind way. You don't want to badmouth anybody here. You're also revealing some compelling evidence, to why this is, credible data. Relatable stories that make people understand why this is important. And then inviting reflection. You're asking provocative questions. Why is this happening? Why does this happen to me over and over? So the core components at this stage are education, capital, becoming the market's teacher. And then also the number 2 is earning attention equity, earning the mind space before you earn the loyalty, which will come in those other phases, and brand positioning. So this is something to really think about in this phase and spending that time to do it. You can do that also by, creating some core narrative themes, some message archetypes. Content formats as well are very important, and making sure by validating that you are on the right platform to disseminate this educational information. It doesn't do any good to be on Facebook when you're a leadership professional, because those people are over on LinkedIn. So really understanding that and measuring the progress. This is something that people don't do. They just give up. They go, oh, it's not working. But when you start looking at those metrics and the engagement quality and your list growth, your email growth, and referral mentions, you might be able to see which avenue is doing best and is repeatable, because that is really what marketing is about, is it's patterned as well. So then we move on to the second stage, which is the problem aware. This is bringing that unconscious friction to the conscious opportunity. And the problem is really essential here, because you're, in a sense, validating the problem. You may think there's a problem, but that audience you're trying to collect might not think that's the problem. So this is really moving readers and clients from a very passive stance to an active stance. It also builds trust and empathy at this stage. It differentiates you as a true guide, not a salesperson, because they've already become aware of you and see you're not sales all day. Also, now they're in that problem aware phase where, like, yeah, that might be a problem for me. You're articulating the problem. So what you're really doing is a deep dive analysis into failure patterns and mistakes. You're telling them, or showing them is even better, instead of telling them, about the evidence you have about this problem and the true cost of the analysis. So, you're letting them know that, this is the evidence that this exists, and this is what it's costing you to not solve this problem. So one of the defining factors in this is there's usually four main ones that come to the surface, and it's money, opportunity, time, and emotional energy. So keep those in mind as you're doing this phase, because this will tell you a lot about what your copy is going to look like. Do you not have time for this? Do you not have the money for this? So all of those things are going to be embraced in your copy, and you need to start connecting with those people to find out what their motivation truly is. This is also where you can use case studies, contrast scattered approaches with strategic systems out there. Expert interviews and guides clarifying the complexity of the problem are very helpful as well. And also detailed explanations of integrated approaches. So each connection is being built in here, and whatever you're listening to in this phase becomes the basis for your content, because remember, content is the trust builder. So in my world, that might look like I might be over on LinkedIn writing articles about why most business books fail to build platforms and the three critical elements that they miss. The true cost of DIY author platform development, time, money, and opportunity analysis. So this is where you're really going to get those pieces in place and do that. Effective formats, retargeting campaigns if you're doing ads, really great email sequences, LinkedIn direct outreach, webinars, social media, and really nurturing those mindset shifts from problem recognition to the next phase we're going to move into, that is solution. Let's talk about the cost of skipping that problem aware stage. Mistrust. Audiences think they don't understand what I've tried. They don't know what I went through, and that nothing's worked. Low conversion rates. Readers and clients need proof that you understand their journey. And then the disconnect, the solution first, marketing feels tone deaf to them. So this is where, we really get into that phase and start moving into the next phase, which is solution aware. So we're moving readers and clients from the diagnosis to decision. That this is a very critical stage as well, because it moves the readers and clients from an active research mode into I'm interested mode, really making them curious about, I've tried all these things. What is the solution this person has that may be different? It also converts frustration into hope. If someone has just tried and can't solve the problem, this might be the point where they take a look at your solution and say, I haven't tried that. And I'm motivated enough that now I want to try something new. It also makes your brand and platform tangible. Because you've listened to the problem, you've listened to how these people describe their problem. Now you're going into solution mode. And this is where the rubber hits the road with, I'm super curious and she gets me and she understands that I really want a solution here. And that it's what differentiates you from your competitors and commoditizes that one size fits all solution that a lot of your competitors probably have. So building solution aware content really means looking at the methodology, buyer's guides, selection criteria. What are you doing for webinars and educational workshops, behind the scenes content, and then really solution focused landing pages as well. So you want to look at this as integration over isolation, proof over hype, transparency over secrecy. And so that's where you're really going to dig in here and show people that you do have that solution they truly need. There are a lot of risks of skipping this as well. I've told you a lot of people just skip right to that next phase. Again, that lost trust factor. They don't know who you are. They don't know what problem you solve. They don't know that you have a solution that may actually help them. And then missed conversions because of that, and really competitive weakness. One of the things that stands out for a lot of my people that I work with is they have no idea who their competitors are. And how can you compete if you don't know who your competitors are? So then we move to the product aware stage. And this is where you're guiding your readers and clients into a commitment. It's the tipping point for the readers to say, I like this. It's where authority meets trust and converts value perception into value belief. So the components of this part of the strategy are really robust client stories, transformation case studies, video testimonials, behind the scenes methodology content, comprehensive FAQ and objection handling content, and process explanation and guides. I do want to caution you here about don't get too into the weeds about the process. Your people want to know about the results. They don't care how you get them there most of the time. They want results. That's why that's so important. So the key messaging here is the proof gap, transformation journey, that they have a support system that maybe they didn't have anymore. This is also for those people who are very risk adverse. If you have a clientele that is, putting out those guarantees, making it easier for them to commit, money back guarantees and things like that. So the risks of overlooking this stage is loss of conversion, brand erosion, and competitive loss. Again, you need to do that deep dive into who your competitors are so you can set yourself apart. And then the last stage here is that most aware stage, converting readiness into action and advocacy, converting those people into clients. This is the moment of conversion. It also reduces the decision paralysis. And what do I mean by that? It's really easy. I think all of us go through that decision paralysis because it's like, I'm going to spend a lot of money. Am I going to get my money's worth? How do I ensure that I get my money's worth? Am I going to have buyer's remorse? So this is really the point where you go back to all of that trust building that you've engaged in for a while here and really go back to that and understand that how you can overcome that decision paralysis. And then it sets the tone for the relationship. What does that onboarding look like? Are you organized? Is what you're doing a mess? So this is the time where you're making those offers. You have those guarantees. You have strong calls to action. You know how to handle an objection. A lot of people don't do follow-up. They don't reject. And don't know how to overcome rejection on it. And I shouldn't have said rejection. It's probably objection. So, you have to look at those time, money, whatever those audience things that you keep hearing over and over on, coming up with, I get that this may not be ideal for you to buy today, but what is the cost of waiting the 6 months you just articulated? What is that going to cost you in business, time, relationships, whatever that thing is, and really drilling down on that with them. And maybe that's the time you offer them a payment plan, because if it truly is money, maybe they just don't have the cash to do all of it today. So that might be a way that you can ease into this with the rejection, and have them in their heads understand that it is going to cost them in some way if they don't get this problem solved. And then having really great investment opportunities for them, meaning, the payment plans, or, a discount if they pay cash today. And then having all of that, your welcoming, onboard, and communication really in a solid place. So I hope that's helpful. And, I know it sounds like a lot of work. It is. But that is truly how people build businesses, successful, long-term, sustainable businesses. There are no quick fixes in this world, and you just have to settle on that and know. Again, I encourage you to go over to findyoridealavatar.com and take our first 3 chapters, our modules of this course, because this course goes over all of this. Not in those first 3 modules, but you can just get a flavor for how it's delivered and how it'll help you. And don't forget, we have a new Breakthrough Author magazine. We have gone from being a monthly magazine to a weekly magazine with a couple articles, a book of the week, and things like that. So go over to Breakthrough Author magazine and start having the tips and tricks dropped into your inbox. All right, I'll see you in the next episode.